I'm Sarah. I'm the caretaker here at historic Richmond Town's Judge Jacob Tyson House. The house that we're in now was built in the 1830s. Today is the first day of spring. It is a lovely warm day outside, but it's a really rainy day also. So I was trying to think of things that people in the 1830s or the 1840s or even 1900 would do on a wonderfully warm spring day, but a spring day they really couldn't spend a whole lot of time outside. So I thought getting some sewing done would be something that people in the 19th century would do in the rain when they can't run around and play outside. In the mid part of the 19th century, about 1850 or 1860, it was pretty easy to get ready-made clothes at a store. You could go into Lower Manhattan, because we're here on Staten Island, it wasn't too far. You can go to places like R.H. Macy or Sears and Roebuck and buy a ready-made suit. You can purchase the garment, you can get it tailored and leave that day wearing it. Even though it was accessible, it doesn't mean everybody had it. Most people, especially people living on Staten Island, probably living on farms, would have done most of their sewing and tailoring at home. So I thought a fun thing that we could do together today is learn a really simple stitch that they would have used in the 19th century, but that seamstresses and tailors use today. It's called a running stitch. Now, a running stitch can be used to do a really simple seam. It could be used to gather fabric, or it could be used to patch fabric together. But if you can see on my white piece of linen, I'm using a contrasting thread so that you guys can see it a little bit better. A running stitch is really strong, but it's really simple to do. And what you're going to want to do is poke your fabric and make a teeny little stitch and a big stitch on the underside. So when you pull it through, this is the side of the fabric you would see the finished fabric. You see a tiny little stitch, but on the back side, the strong part of the stitch is a really big, long stitch. And that's all you'd have to do in a straight line. A tiny little stitch and a big stitch. A tiny little stitch and a big stitch. And you can do that all the way down your fabric. You probably wouldn't be doing it randomly in the middle of a piece of fabric like I am now. It would be really good to use to join two pieces of fabric together at a seam or a hem. But it's a really easy stitch. It's the basic stitch that all hand sewing methods are based on. It's a stitch everyone, men and women, would have known in the 19th century. And it's something that's really useful to know now in case you have a tear in anything that you are wearing that you want to fix up really quickly on your own without having to go to the dry cleaner to do it.